Okay, at this point now when I write CSS, just to make things go a little bit quicker, I'm not going to show you exactly what I'm doing in the CSS Designer panel. If you need a refresher on that, go back and watch the early videos. I'm just going to show you the final outcome that can either be achieved by going to this panel or just writing it straight out like we did in the earlier CSS project. So what we want to do is give ourselves some padding inside of here. And if you recall, we set up a section and everything's in the section. So I see nothing wrong with just giving us our generic all-around padding inside of here, especially since everything is centered. Now, if you had left justified, then obviously you might have to break it down. But again, from here on out, I'm just going to show you what I'm doing for mine, and think that I've given you enough examples of changing things that you can apply it to yours, and if not, of course, you can always ask questions. So here we go. We need to write something for a section in the main CSS and try to keep stuff more general to specific, so this is probably a good place to drop that in. Okay, so you can see we get padding here. We're also getting it along the sides, but as I mentioned, we're centered, so we really don't have to be too critical about that. Now, this is just a little bit too close. The H2 tag is too close to the paragraph. So what I'm going to do, since this is a portfolio site and not a paragraph heavy site, is I'm just going to write right in for the P tag. But if you have multiple paragraphs, again, you'd have to use a class in front of here. You can see that gives that a nice spacing, and if we do a save all and view that in the browser, what we'll notice is this to me is a big deal when the browser gets wider and wider and wider and we expect someone to read all the way across here. So what I'm going to do is give that a maximum width, and I'll show you the code for that in just a second, but what I want you to see is no matter how big the browser gets or how wide, it sticks within this maximum size. Now it did throw it off from centering, but I'll show you a trick for that. Okay, so here's what I wrote is max width, and I just took a guess that 600 pixels would probably be a good starting place. Now to get it to center, we use a special feature of margin set to auto. You can pause here or go here to see a little bit more about how that works. There's the CSS, and then this is what it looks like in the browser, and you can see no matter what size it gets to be, there's a max width, and the auto feature floats it. Okay, now let's take care of the footer, which is just this copyright information in here for now, and it's surrounded by footer tags, so we can address right directly to the footer tags with the CSS. So what I did just to get me started was wrote the tag, put a background color of blue just so I could see exactly what was happening. And since we have, I'll figure out what the amount of padding I used here, and we'll give it the same amount of padding on the left, give it a little bit on the top and the bottom to open that up. Okay, so there's the code right there for the footer. Do a save all, test that in the browser. And has a nice alignment there. Yeah, we'll stick with that as far as the padding for now on the top and the bottom. We can adjust it later. Now the main problem would be is if you had a lot of content here or the browser got really short, you would lose the footer. So let's make it sticky. Read up more about this. I went to CSS navigation bar, but we can apply the same to the footer, and this is basically what we want is no matter what's going on, that footer is stuck at the bottom so that they know and that it's copywritten. We can also put who designed it, put a link in there, whatever you like. So we'll go in here, take a look at the code, and then grab some of it. Okay, so you can see that fix that to the bottom, and now if a person scrolls, it stays in position. Now we should fix that for our navigation as well. And here you can see was the code that I put in with position fix, bottom 0, width 100%. In this design, we need to put the positioning up for the header. So we have the position fixed, top 0, width 100%. Now, because of the way the fixed positioning works, that creates a problem. So if we do a file, save all, option F12, which is a shortcut for previewing in a browser, you can see that now we don't have enough padding up here. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the padding for that section and we'll change it up a little bit. So right now we threw in an amount that worked for the top originally, didn't really care about the sides, but now let's make the sides the same as everything else that's on the left. 25, 25, take a guess that 150 should fix the problem on the top. We got to break the chain here. That looks right. All right, now that's doing what it should do, that it can scroll, but the header stays put and the footer stays put. And now that we've got the basic structure of this site down, now would be a good time to go ahead and make better portfolio and contact pages and go ahead and put in the code to make them, blue when you're on the page and that you can go back to the home. Okay, so back in Dreamweaver, we'll do a file, save all. Then we will do, and this is important, make sure that you're not on main CSS, that you're on source code, because we're about to make a copy of the index HTML. Save that out as, save as, and then we will overwrite both the portfolio page with it and the contact page. So, and just make sure that it looks like it's supposed to there. If it looks really funny, it's probably because you had main CSS clicked. Now back to index HTML, file, save all as, and do that for contact. And then on these pages, make sure you're on the right one. On portfolio, we will go down into here. We're going to have to give ourselves a little bit more room here. And we'll just change the H1 or the H2 tag in there to say portfolio. So just find that in the code, the H2 tag, and we'll just put on here portfolio placeholder. And then we'll do something similar on the contact page. So I'll copy that and paste it in there. And if we preview in the browser from the index page, we can see that we can get to the portfolio and the contact page, but they do not yet change to the blue color here. So let's fix that. So if we click on our HTML page in the source code and we look at what's going on here, we see that we could just copy this first A tag and then go onto the portfolio page and paste that in there. So Command C to copy and switch over to the portfolio page. And even though it's hard to tell up here, I can see that my text that I put in here. So I'm going to go over to the portfolio and I am going to paste up to here. With that, and then now I need to make this so that it goes to the index page. So as a starter, I'll just copy this, paste it in here, and then we'll change this so that it reads index HTML. And it looks like something's wrong with the code here. Oh yeah, too many brackets over here. Now let's do the same thing, relatively speaking, for the contact page. So first two links, index portfolio. Third one, which is contact, is now the active. All right, we now have a fully functioning 3 pages with layout. Just not looking the prettiest yet, but it's getting there, and we just need really 2 big things left to do, is put in an image rotator in the portfolio and a contact form in the contact.